Well, happy Friday, everybody. I'm Nick Slavik. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my over 2 decades of experience as a painter, a craftsman, restorationist, colorist, business owner, entrepreneur to answer any of your questions live. Now, this is a show for homeowners and it's a show for pros. Homeowners, what have you always wanted to ask a professional painter? Any question you've ever wanted. If you're thinking about hiring out a job, if you're thinking about you got a bunch of estimates, you want to know what the process is because they look all screwy, this is your place to not only interact with me, but interact with other pros. And pros, this is a forum for us to learn from each other. If you want to talk entrepreneurship, apprenticeship, marketing, accounting, payroll, production management, vehicles, tools, coding science, this is what this show is here for. This is definitely not me standing here saying I have all this figured out. I use this as a learning tool for myself and for everybody here. So Danny, Ari, thank you for watching there, buddy. Danny, thank you for the comment. Anybody who has a question or a comment during the show, type it down below and we'll get to it. Today's show is another awesome show. I will be going live with another professional painter from the East Coast, Christian Militello, a good friend of mine who I've been associated with for a few years. I think I met him at a PDCA function years ago, and he will be joining me live later on to ask the PDCA, the Painting and Decorating Contractors of America, Contractor Question of the Week. And I've partnered with the PDCA. The PDCA is the largest collection of some of the best craftspeople, business owners in North America and other parts of the world. And I am using them as an avenue to get to some of those best people, and they're using me to get to some of my people that I'm connected with here. So I see Christian is ready to go down below. I'm going to do a few more minutes of prep. I'll give him a chance if he wants to share the live feed with his people on social media. I'll give him a chance to do that. I'll go through a little bit of shop work business here, and then we will get to it. So. We are now settled into our winter season. Our exterior season came to an early and abrupt stop here. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful 60s during the day, and then all of a sudden it dipped into the 20s at night, and I watched the nighttime temperatures for my exterior coating, so we made an abrupt stop. I lost about 3 weeks this year, which is a lot, but I cleared my schedule, and we were running ahead of schedule anyway, so we are now into the interior season. Let's see what we have going on today. We have a complete basement refinish where we're basically taking all the old oak in a basement. We're doing doors, windows, millwork, fireplace stuff, a little bit of small cabinetry, and we're enameling it with my process that I discussed in one of my master's class for the PDCA. Let's see, we have windows and we have doors in the shop. We have a brand new beautiful house getting trim installed so we can finish that. We have another basement remodel that will be starting in on Monday. We've done all the ceilings, walls, things like that. Oh, and what else? Oh, we have a garage repaint for another one of my good local clients here in town. So yeah, then we're actually over in Apple Valley as well on another basement, just a standard repaint. So I try to mix up all the jobs in there, get the crews going out and seeing what's going on. So I think it is time now. I'll see if I can get Christian up here. I will. Okay. All right, I'll invite Christian here to come on. And it looks like Kathy Covington. I'm drinking from my handmade Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration mugs. The finest person, a person who loves clay as much as I love paint, Kathy Covington down in New Ulm, Earth and Art. She makes all my mugs for me, and this was a surprise. 10 years ago, Kathy, my wife went to Kathy, and my wife got me one of these as a present, and it was she hand etches my logo in here, glazes them, hand does all my mugs, and got it back to me, and it looks so cool that I actually have Kathy making all of them, and I basically had a standing order of 50 mugs for probably 10 years now, and Kathy does awesome work. So Earth and Art down in New Ulm, Minnesota, the place I actually just did one of those big restorations. So as soon as I see Christian come up here, I know he requested, he probably dropped off here, but I sent him another invite. Okay, so today the topic is going to be all about. Oh, actually, you know what? Maybe I'll leave that for Christian. A couple more pieces of a business to take care of. All of the Ask a Painters, either on Instagram or on Facebook, if you type in the hashtag Ask a Painter, all my shows will come up, all my posts associated with the shows. If I post pictures or documents that correspond to these shows, you can find them there. Also, if you go on YouTube, the entire life of Ask a Painter. We're on show number 73 now. That's one a week, so we got better than a year's worth of shows on there. I usually try to make the descriptions easy, so if you go Ask a Painter, you know, there's some very popular ones. I can't remember if it's maybe 17 was the first time I ever did a cabinet show. Very, very popular. A week or two ago, I did another cabinet extravaganza. It's one of my most popular shows. So if you're interested in the fine finishing process, it's all on there. I try to lay it out as much of as easy as you can, but the whole archive is there for you. And it's basically just YouTube is now a sort of library of all this knowledge, and I have certainly improved over the years with a bunch of that stuff. And every time I do like my cabinet show, once a year I try to do a big sort of treatise on cabinet finishing, and I add a little bit to it. I learn from a lot of pros, and yeah, we kind of just move from there. So we will wait for Jason Perez, good friend of mine from my neck of the woods here. Thanks a lot for watching the YouTube videos. Dwayne Lopez, oh, thanks for watching, man. I appreciate it. And we'll wait for Christian here. We'll give him about 2 or 3 more minutes, and then we'll hop onto the contractor question of the week. And when I see him, when I see his request pop up here, I will invite him in here. So what else is going on here? We're in another round of hiring. For those of you who've been following me with the podcasts through the PDCA, we've been talking a lot about winter marketing. There's been most painters, at least in my neck of the woods, the upper Midwest, it's sort of this Game of Thrones things where winter is coming, you know, and it's always this thing holding over our heads where in summer, everybody has enough work. You basically don't have to go chase it. It's always there. We have about 6 months here where we can get it done. And after that, okay, let's see if Christian's popped up here. There we go. Should be coming on here in just a second. There you go. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for joining me today.
Of course, of course. This is my first time. I don't have a steady shot or anything like that. So.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, Christian is a member of the PDCA. He runs Militello Painting and Powerwashing in Pennsylvania, correct?
Correct. Yeah, right outside of Philadelphia.
Awesome. You want to give a little introduction to everybody about yourself, and then fire away with the contractor question of the week?
So yeah, I've been in business for about 15 years. The last 5 or so, I've been out of the field. For the most part, full time. I have very good, experienced crew leaders. We believe in team culture and all that kind of stuff. And my wife works for the company full time. She left her physical therapy aide job. She graduated with a kinesiology degree from Penn State and decided to come work for a painting company.
So why? How did you get into painting?
My grandfather was a handyman growing up. He served in the Korean War, and he kind of pretty much did everything. And once baseball didn't work out in college, that's what found me, the career that found me.
Yeah. Once bodybuilding didn't work out for me, you know, I kind of fell into the whole painting thing. So
yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. You got the main contractor question of the week for us this week.
Yeah. So my question was for you, Nick, and for people out there was more or less, if you could start your painting business from the ground up, what would you do? How would you do it? You know, there's a lot of people who go out there and think they can just go buy some paint rollers and some plastic drops from Home Depot, and all of a sudden they're set up for shop.
Yeah, it's an interesting business, as you know, because there's almost no barrier to entry. So anybody with the proverbial rusty van and a bent extension ladder technically on paper is the same as us. Now, some states have business licensing, some sort of process you have to go through. In Minnesota, there's carpenters, electricians, and plumbers, and you have to go through some sort of process, licensing process. Here, it's nothing. And most of the guys running around that are painters here aren't painters because, you know, they had a grandfather who introduced it to them. Most of them got fired from McDonald's and then ended up being a painter because there's no employment application. So I've been thinking a lot about this this last week since you had sent me the question. I jotted some notes down here. But I thought, just like with my master's classes, I would try to give some context to this. Now, most of the information that I'll give today and most of the advice that I'll give will be towards the residential painting contractors in the United States. There's 150,000 painting contractors. The vast majority are 3 people or less residential repainters. So I'm directing a lot of this to the bulk of this because, as you know, there's nobody who has no painting background and decides to be an industrial painter. It usually just doesn't happen, you know. So you start off with the residential stuff and you move up. So also, you know this as well, nobody has this solved. So when you and I talk about how to create a business from the start, it's not that this is the way, the PDCA gives us their blessing, this is, you know, if you buy this form, it'll tell you how to do it. Nobody has this solved. There are a whole bunch of different personalities that dictate the size of the business, the type of the business, and every business is going to be a little bit different, and it all depends what you want out of it. So there are a couple ways to kind of figure out what type of business you want. The easiest, most quantifiable way that people judge businesses by are how much money you're making, how many trucks you got, how many people you got. And that's okay. It can give you some information about a business, but it doesn't tell you everything. What's way more important is, what are you taking home at the end of the year? Have you built in freedom around your life? Are you experiencing satisfaction every day? So there's a whole bunch of these soft things that we can't quantify that sometimes make or break painting businesses. So I get probably twice a week somebody says, you know, I'm a one-person thing, what do I do from here? Well, there's 2 basic ways to go. You can either get super, super big and focus on the business side, or you can be sort of the crafts person and keep your quality high and move that way. And I think the struggle that I'm in right now is trying to figure out, I really enjoy the craft of it, but I want to see how big you can get. So I think there's a weird hybrid in between that's not quantifiable.
You would say that as you grow, your which direction you want to go may change.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't think any of us are smart enough to know that. I think once you get in it, you find your level. Like Jason Paris up here, who commented before, he runs an awesome, super impressive business north of me, and he does things very differently than me. We come at it from 2 different angles, but where I'm the I consider myself a master craftsman, he would consider himself a master logistician, and he runs a super successful business. So nobody has this figured out, and our personalities are going to dictate this. So number 1, the biggest advice that I could give somebody, there's about 7 little bits of advice and bits of guidance that I would do to create sort of a business like this. And the first one would be just go learn from a pro. I grew up in a family business. I toiled with the family business, a very unsuccessful, unprogressive family business. And if I would have been with somebody like you or somebody like me from the start, I could have condensed about 18 years worth of experience down into about 4. So I would definitely say, if you have no experience and you want to do this, definitely just go find somebody like Christian and work for him for a bunch of years. And you may find that your personality dictates that you want to be Christian's right-hand man, or you may want to go on your own. But either way, it's going to be good. So what do you think about that one?
So I think that you're 100% correct in that. I did. My grandfather was a handyman, so he wasn't a professional painter. I did serve with somebody for 2 years, and he knew that I wasn't going to stay with him. So he eyeballed things, and he'd say, "Hey, Christian, how long do you think it would take to paint this room? How long do you think it would take to paint that room?" So he kind of helped me. He knew that. And the fact that you said maybe you'll stay with somebody, maybe you won't. There are a lot of people who don't realize that a good number 2 is just as good or if not more important than being a number one.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, you know, nobody goes into this knowing exactly what their business is going to look like, how many people they're going to have, what market they're going to be in. So why not build yourself in a little bit of time when you know you're going to get paid, learn from a pro, and maybe they end up being a master logistician and you learn from that. Or maybe you go work for a master craftsman. Just take whatever they do good, get rid of what they do bad that doesn't fit with their personality, and move on. And I think that will condense. It's not necessary. A lot of us actually didn't do that. I mean, you know, you and I, we had some experience with somebody else. There's a lot of people who come into this with just a college education and they say, hey, you know, that's fine. I painted one summer in high school, didn't learn anything, but it was a good business and did it. So I think there's a lot of ways to do it. Number two, one of the things that I did not plan on, but just happened to me, was I got a board of advisors. It's not a formal, like a C Corp. I didn't go out there and say, I'm gonna hire, you know, a board of directors and do this, but I mined the people that I trusted in my hometown, and I got an accountant, I got a lawyer, I got a sort of elder statesman of business here, and I also got a financial advisor. And if you get those people that you trust, you can bounce a lot of business questions off of them. And I usually pit my financial advisor against my accountant, because my financial advisor will advise me one thing. This is the thing where you can save the most money. And then my accountant will say, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we'll do something else. So have you found that you get a side benefit from some of the people that you use to help your business?
I think that a board of advisors is something we've been kicking around here, and I think it's a great idea. It's just something that I'd like to do. Somebody who is not emotionally attached to your business is huge.
That is huge.
I also think of finding a mentor.
Yeah.
Is a big part too.
Yep. And you know, in the last 2 years, basically, you know, since when I probably met you and a lot of other painters here, it's so good to get perspective. And perspective, you know, after we sort of understand we can paint, we can run a business, that's sort of a given. Now we have to improve. The biggest way to improve is to get perspective. So meet as many painters as you can and see what they do good. And then I kind of take from everybody else. One of the most helpful things with kind of board of advisors and sort of in the perspective is I always hold 3 or 4 of the painting companies I know as sort of emblematic of who does what and where, because we all know painting companies that have 10 guys that will do $1 million in revenue, and we also know painters who have 30 guys and will do $1 million in revenue. So you kind of figure out, like, how does that guy's personality mesh with that? Is one person doing something right? Is one person an outlier? And that'll sort of guide you in your way there. But I actually didn't create this board of advisors like that. I just had such good relationships with my accountant and my lawyer and this and that I just started running business advice off of them at our annual and quarterly meetings, and it turned out pretty well. I mean, some of the best advice I've ever got is, just like you said, from somebody who's not as passionate about my business as me, who just sees it as, you are another client of mine, I'm going to give you the best advice. So also, next thing would probably be master the basics. I've come to realize that over the years, if you just, as far as the painting side goes, if all you do is follow the technical data sheets, you will be in the top 2% of all painters in the United States. A lot of guys try to devise old time-spun sort of homey ways of doing painting, and actually, if you just follow the technical data sheets of all these products, you will turn out some of the best painting work ever. Another part about mastering the basics on the business side would be, I've sort of learned that whatever you want to do least, do first, and do it quickly. Get it done with. The biggest fault I see in some of these small business owners is there's something looming over your head like a black cloud, and you know you have to do it. It's not that fun. It's not one of those sexy marketing projects, and you just keep putting it off. And I've found that a big weight is lifted off your shoulders, and it frees you up for other time if you just do that really nasty business thing right now. And do it quickly and get it done with out of here. So as far as mastering the basics, I think the only other bit of sort of perspective would be, you know, the basics of business is not, we all know what to do. If you were the homeowner, what would you want to do? All you want is somebody who's really good at their job, who you can trust. So it gets complicated when you talk a lot about that stuff, but it boils down to that simple fact and being genuine. Another piece here that I've been thinking a lot about recently, based on some of the questions I've been getting, is knowing your place. Some of the best advice I get from other pros is always, just stay within your wheelhouse, only do what you're good at, don't step out on these little planks, put yourself out, and that's okay, but you don't want to be too specialized. At the same time, you really don't, you have to be realistic about, are you going to be a residential painter? Are you going to do commercial? Are you going to do industrial? Are you going to do kind of modified forms of that? And deciding what type of business you want to run, you also have to be realistic about where you live. Like, you probably live, Christian, in a large urban center.
It's somewhat. I mean, it's still suburban. It's very similar. I've seen pictures from you, but it's very similar to you. I mean, it's 20 minutes from Philly.
Okay.
But it's similar to yours. There are a lot of residential houses. Yeah. A lot.
And I'm, from my metro area, I mean, I would imagine the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Twin City area is quite a bit smaller than your sort of major metro area, and I'm 45 minutes out of there. So I am in on what would be considered the outer ring. Like, past me is kind of farm field. So I have to be realistic when I decide, hey, I want to have 30 people, 30 apprentices in my painting company. It's going to be very much harder for me to get that. If you want to have a 180 person painting company, you're going to have to be in one of the 10 big major metro areas, and you're going to have to be comfortable with doing business downtown. So I've sort of come to realize that I'm quite stretching the boundaries of what I can do, because when I get job applicants, they're all from an hour drive away from me, and for the price that apprentices are paid, you have to be cognizant of that. I could probably hire twice as many apprentices as easy as I do now if I was in the heart of the metro area. So something you just come to realize. But, when you're out here, you also have to say, you have housing is cheaper. You can get a lot of land for a little. You can get a small town feel, but still have a strong business community. So again, it's how it's kind of what you want out of it. So
yeah, again, all these things go into how your business morphs.
That's true.
You can decide to open up a satellite office, and maybe you've developed a good number two.
That is not a bad idea. And, it's one of those things too. A lot of that is dictated sort of, I have constants in my life. I'm not leaving my hometown. I have, my last name has been associated with painting trade for probably 40 years. And I don't want to give up that goodwill. And certainly you could move into the metro and you'd be fine, but there's a lot of ancillary benefits. And a lot of what dictates where my business goes is knowing who my customers are. And you would think that we are tradespeople, we're entrepreneurs, and we're dealing with, general contractors, we're dealing with other contractors. But if you look down my list of clients, the vast majority, probably 80%, are 40 to 75-year-old women. So that dictates what type of business you have to run as well. And if that's the people that your business is attracting, you have to decide, is my marketing set up right to attract the right people? Is that actually what you want to do? If you hate working inside houses where people live in, then obviously you need to find something else. But I sort of enjoy that. So your thoughts on your customer base and sort of pushing it in ways, Christian?
Well, our customer base is I feel like the word high-end gets thrown around quite a bit by painters.
Yep.
Everyone is a high-end painter. I guess you could say we're a service-oriented painting company where services are one of our top attributes. We try and be very, very service-oriented with the things we do. But as far as client base, they're generally the same. Mm-hmm. Housewives, husbands who just want things done. They don't care. Yeah. Just get done. And how fast can you do it?
And one thing I've struggled with that high end thing before too, because I don't want to give people in my area the idea that I only work for rich people. So in the past year or so, I've been using the term experienced client. If you look at, the 8 jobs on my sort of revolving list right now that I'm sort of taking care of, they're all people who are, if they're building a new house, it's their 4th new house, and they know standard new construction finishes aren't going to pass muster on that. It's homeowners who have worked with contractors in the past, and they value trust and quality way more than timeline and cost and things like that. So I've started using experienced customers now because I think that's a more I think it's a more accurate description of probably the people we work for, and yeah, there's, of course, you have your high-end clients there, but from me, they don't get anything that my standard client doesn't get. So
Agreed.
yeah. Also, besides knowing your people, knowing yourself. Are you a 8 to 4 person, or are you a basically, if you start your business, is it no holds barred? I'm going to work, 40 hours a day to get this thing off the ground, and that'll also dictate the type of business that you have too. If you're only willing to work 8 hours a day when you're starting a business, you're going to have a whole bunch of people helping you with stuff because you just won't accomplish what you need to, at least starting a business. And probably over the last 10 years, the biggest lesson I've got from other painters, like you and people that I meet at the PDCA is, it's sort of an excuse after a while. Oh, I work so many hours, I get up so early, I stay up so late. Well, if you're really good, you don't really have to work 16 hours a day. You should be smart enough to pack it into somewhere between, 7 and 10 or 11 hours a day. And I think we always, just like revenue, guys, trucks, things like that, it's number of hours in a day is fine. You can hold it as a personal sense of pride, but really, right now, I'm accomplishing in 7.5 hours what I used to accomplish in about 13 hours a day 5 years ago. So
Now, this brings up a question I asked you a few months ago. I said, Nick, you do a lot of stuff. You post pictures with your family, you do the Ask a Painter Live, you do PDCA stuff, you run your business, and you're training apprentices. I asked you, how do you fit it all in a day? And your explanation was pretty good of what you do with your 24 hours and how you decide to split it up.
Yep, I do my, one thing I realized in college was that, we all have 3 8-hour days in a 24-hour period. And given that we sleep 8, which almost none of us do, we have to work 8, and then most of us piss away 8 hours a day doing something, So I just try to harness that 8 hours. And over the past 10 years, I've basically said, okay, sleep is a given. We'll try to go 8. I have to at least work 8 hours. That seems to be the minimum. In that last 8 hours, I'm gonna default to family. If a fire needs to put up, I'll start bumping into that time with work. And I've generally seen that second 8 or that third 8 hours go from 6 hours business, 5 hours business, 4 hours business, 3, and now we're at about maybe 1 to 2. So I'm probably spending in total, maybe 9 to 10 hours a day on my business. But it's amazing if you think about that everybody has this, pseudo 8 hours for free. And I think the difference between people who, have built in this sort of freedom into their life or not, are how do you harness that third 8? That seems to be an interesting thing.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to put things into perspective. You get 3 days out of 1, essentially.
Absolutely. And, it doesn't, people have the impression that guys like you and me, all we do is we live and breathe this stuff. But I think real men and real business owners don't use that as an excuse. We can do what we need to by, sort of being just better business owners, and, giving up that family time for business is not an excuse after a while. I mean, after, I've been in my own business for 10 years, there's no excuse. If I'm struggling with the day-to-day operations of a painting business, I've failed. This should be good. My only struggles now, just like yours, are always, how do we improve? Is it better to get bigger? Do we go into a different market? Do we do different things? How do we make more jobs? How do we make more freedom for ourselves? So that's the struggle that we all deal with. It's not the struggle to run a painting business, So, marketing. Basically, the goal, if I had to set up if I was counseling somebody on setting up a business, it's all trust. You just have to get people to trust you, and that's general contractors, it's homeowners, business owners, all that stuff. So just like knowing your place, you have to just gain the trust of that. And one of the easiest quick things you can do as as a brand new business is just get a consistent marketing image and make it dense. You want to say a lot with a very little. So like your logo, Christian, I see that you're real consistent with your marketing, and it's a recognizable logo. It's distinct, and I'm sure you put a lot of thought into all that.
We actually did. So as simple as it is, it ties everything for me because I was a baseball player. So it's a play on a logo, a similar logo, but it's catchy. And I've never gone to marketing school or anything like that, but believe it or not, I grew up skateboarding. And skateboarders always had logos that were very similar. I remember Girl. It was the sign of a girl on a restroom.
Yeah.
I remembered it. Yeah. You know, there's so many, you know, independent trucks. You know, people who don't even skateboard know what independent is. So maybe having that background made me think about logos a little more.
That's huge. I mean, especially in that sort of extreme sports and board sports sort of thing. I mean, from when you and I were young, that the independent or the logo for independent hasn't changed. I mean,
no.
30 years, 40 years, you know, and it's that consistency where you walk by a store and you see that cross and you know exactly what, you don't even have to look, you know, and it's the same thing. Colors, consistency, all that stuff is the same. You can sort of dictate your own clients by how you market. Besides being consistent, being dense, also just be different. Two of the things that I've done over the last 10 years is, it's kind of funny to talk about newspaper ads, but 10 years ago, social media wasn't an avenue for guys like you and me to promote our business, really. So I still, in my community, if you're going after 40 to 70-year-old women to gain their trust, you put a big ad in the local newspaper. That's still where you get the most value from. So when you open up a newspaper, all it is a bunch of black and white stuff everywhere. You can pay for a color ad, but it's so exorbitant, especially, you know, in small newspapers and stuff like that. All I did was take my display ad like this and turn the background to black instead of white. So you open up the paper, all you do is see this black square in the middle of the newspaper, and it draws your eye. Now, I still have that in there, but I've changed it to a hiring ad. 3 years from now, I probably will not do that. I see myself phasing out of that and doing more social media, but the same thing can be said for Facebook and Instagram. All you have to do is get people to stop scrolling and for 1 second, look at something interesting you have. So just be different. And uniforms too. Instead of the standard whites, I actually just outfitted my entire crew with off-white stuff. We got cream pants, cream shirts, we got tan sweatshirts and everything else. So just a tiny, it doesn't really cost anymore. It's just a tiny bit different, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Other thoughts on marketing, Christian?
The consistency is good, but don't be afraid to change what finds comfortable. Because I've gone through many changes over the past 15 years. And I would say in the last 5 or 6 or 7, we've been more consistent. Mm-hmm. But it can take some time to become or find that consistency.
That's true. That is especially now that our avenues of marketing are different. You know, now if all you do is post a picture of your logo on social media, that's not enough. Now you have to post pictures. Well, every picture is going to be different. But if you can somehow get some consistency going with the pictures, that'll help out. You know, people will sort of know you for a thing. The only other part about marketing, and you know, we have to be realistic with painting companies that we're not going to draw from multi-states and things like that. When we start a painting company, you know, kind of like you're 20 minutes away from the metro. If you plot every job I've ever worked for, it's basically a 20-mile ring. You know, kind of skewed more towards the Twin Cities, but we're looking for people within 20 miles of our house to hire us. So getting involved in your community has been a huge thing for me. From an early age, volunteering for community boards and you know, doing fundraisers when people have benefits and things like that, donating the painting of a room, just anything you can do to get out there and build trust with your local community. You're not going to hit tens of thousands of people. You may only hit a couple hundred, but out of those couple hundred, you will get quality leads out of that versus, you know, mass marketing, where if you send out 10,000 cards and you get 3 jobs out of it, that's considered a success. You know, this is a much more target rich environment in your own community.
And that's just one of the benefits of what you just said, as far as donating your time. So I read once or heard once, I don't read tremendously, to give back. And it doesn't necessarily mean money. It can be what you do.
Yep.
So the most successful people seem to be the people who give the most. And one of the outcomes of giving is receiving.
Absolutely.
But I have a friend here, local competition, if you want to call it that. I talk to him almost every day. He does a coat drive. He does give away 1 gallon of free paint to the next purchase of a project.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he does a coat drive, and I think it's a great idea. You know, there's a painter in the West Coast who does the painter giveaway for a day, or you know,
Pay It Forward, yeah, yep.
Pay It Forward, yeah, that's a huge thing, you know.
No, and it's good, and you know, with giving your services too, it's you can multiply your dollar. If let's say the value of your donation is $800 or $900, instead of just handing $800 or $900, if you actually give your services, you're in somebody's house, and now you have built a client for life. People see your thing on the silent auction table, and you can take that $800 or $900, and you can get, you know, multiples of value out of it from that. And again, it's all trust. What do you want? When you call a plumber, who do you want? You want a guy who's really good at his job, and you want him to just show up on time, charge you what he said, and move on with life. So,
and the key is don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't stop giving.
That's
you
true.
Become successful or rich, you know, or whatever your idea of success is, do not stop giving.
Yeah,
you know?
I would agree.
Stay humble in a way.
Another thing, I probably get half a dozen questions every week about, okay, so we've started this business. I got some people helping me. They set me up with maybe QuickBooks. We got some marketing out there. We're doing jobs. Now all of a sudden, come summer, I want help. When do you know to hire apprentices? When do you know to hire employees? What has always been your thinking about that?
So recently I heard just from somebody that they'd rather have more employees and try and go find the work than have all the work in the world and try and find the employees. There's one school of thought that is you're always looking to upgrade what you have. There's a bottom 10%. You know, I don't know how strongly I feel about that, but it's difficult. What I have found, and the best way to get an employee, is to make your company cool.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Who doesn't want to work for the cool guy?
Yep.
Who doesn't want to work for the cool company?
Yep.
Nick, you inspired me a few weeks ago to do what I did for my guy.
Was that boots?
With the work boots. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've been wanting to do something for a while, and we have one of those stores here. I know I'm a sneaker guy, and I bought a pair of those boots probably 4 or 5 years ago. Most comfortable boots I ever wore. You know, but you want to be the cool company to work for. You know, you with your old cars and your railroad suspenders, and it looks neat, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and you know, it's besides looking cool, I think all those things you mentioned are indicators of somebody who cares, you know, somebody who's actually devoted their life to this stuff. So with the boots, with the stuff like that, it just translates into trust. And, you know, just like clients, you know, if you want good apprentices, so they want to trust somebody. They want to know that there's gonna be a life in this for them, some type of future, and they want to know that they're gonna not just be, you know, the proverbial roofing help during the summer, where some guy who owns a roofing outfit is gonna use you up, tear your back up, tear your knees up, and then throw you away and fall and never call you again. So it's all about the trust, you know.
And what makes your company any better, any different, what makes it any different than somebody else's?
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I'll go get an apprenticeship with company A or company B or C or D. Why do I want it with company Z?
Yeah. And you know, it's funny, 5 years ago, I used to think that if I could just pay everybody enough, I would completely solve my apprentice problems. Turns out pay is probably 30% of what people value in you. And they'll tell you, even during interviews, there's a lot of issues where I would like to keep people for longer and do that. And at some point, unless I paid them more than I make, they're still going to leave because they're going to be a pilot, they're going to college, they're doing that. So don't always think that money will solve it. Money will definitely help. It might get some more people's interest, but the people who are only interested in the hourly wage, if that's their first question to you, maybe an indication that they might not be a good fit for your company. You know, I mean, you can't blame people for asking. It's first and foremost in their mind. But if they're not interested in the work or you or your business, yeah, I would just say that's about the best advice I could give with the apprentices. Besides, you know, with a standard residential repaint company, you know, hire one, master that, and figure out, you know, like with this board of advisors, you know, you talk to your accountant, talk to your lawyer. This last year, I just asked, you know, hey, my accountant or my lawyer, what's your hourly rate? And I'm going to come in and I'm going to keep it to 1 or 2 hours. I'm going to have a list of questions and I'm just going to rapid fire. And you give me this or you give me this, or we'll talk about it later. And so we sat down and we did that. And it was basically all around employment stuff, because we're getting to the point now where there's certain income thresholds in Minnesota where overtime starts kicking in when you make a certain amount of money as a business. So there's a lot of important things where hire some employees, get them good, get the process down, and then start figuring out what your overhead is for those employees, because there's work comp, there's liability, are they driving your vehicles? And your insurance person can give you an estimate of that, but you're gonna need a year's worth of experience to actually see how that stuff shakes out. And again, board of advisors is huge on that. And it's not you're giving these people extra, you're giving them, like your insurance person, a ton of money a year. The least they can do is sit down for 20 minutes and answer some questions, you know?
Yeah. You know, you'll move on to the next thing, but hiring is very important. And if somebody asks a question about when you're ready to hire an apprentice and train, I think you start with one, like you said. And my thing is, make that person who you're going to trust with your business to be better than you are.
Yeah.
And then their job is to create somebody better than they are. And that's how you grow, is to constantly keep people around you who are more, not necessarily more experienced, but are more qualified, who become better talented than you. You know.
I agree. And you know, when I was ready to hire my first person, in the last 10 years of my business, I think I worked alone for the first 2, give or take, because that's the type of family business that I grew up in. I just laid out my Excel spreadsheets and I figured out, hey, here's some production rates, here's what I think it would cost insurance-wise and this. And it actually, on that first spreadsheet, it didn't come out very well. It was like, what, there's not really a huge benefit for hiring somebody. But when you actually look around, it's like, hey, everybody else has employees, so obviously it must work. And then, you know, you get that first 1 or 2 under your belt and you're like, oh, in practice, when the rubber meets the road, it's a lot different because everybody's personality dictates. I mean, I had some guys who produced 4 times as much as I expected and some guys who produced half. So you can't really, it's so hard. If you analyze it, you just analyze it to death. I compiled a few like last little bits of, hey, just whatever else, here's some advice. One of them is, if you have to ask, just do it. When do I hire a new apprentice? Is there an income threshold? Is there a number? Just do it, man. Just do it. You know, you'll figure it out as you go.
Yeah. Because I want some company.
Yeah, exactly. But it sharpens you as a business owner, because now you're responsible to somebody more than just yourself and your family. You know, you got to make sure that winter is full of work, and it's going to make your marketing even a little more pointed and more important to you. So, and everybody who's typing in stuff down below here, we'll go back through that at the end of the show. I got one more set of bullet points, and then we're out of here. So, down to the sort of general advice. I'm going to run through a few, and then Christian, I'd love to hear a little bit of yours here. A standard piece of advice that I would give somebody starting off is just keep a light footprint. Don't go buy a new truck. Don't go buy a bunch of Festool. Don't go buy the fanciest stuff. Get some used stuff. Only get what you need. All you need is some hand tools, a ladder, and a couple brushes and rollers, and you're off and running. It doesn't take a lot to run a painting business. So don't think you have to buy another business. You know, if you spend more than $1,000 starting a painting business, you've done the wrong thing if you're a one-person outfit. And as soon as the rubber hits the road with that stuff, you'll know exactly what you need and what's excessive, and you can kind of build from there. Especially with vehicles. When people start off, they think, well, we're just going to get a new truck and this, and well, you're already you're having huge overhead already. So, you know, I have some nice vehicles. I have some very inexpensive vehicles, and I'm actually starting to value and enjoy my inexpensive vehicles even better than some of the other ones, because they basically all do the same, whether it's a $38,000 pickup truck or a $10,000 van. Within 5%, they're basically all doing the same thing. So you start thinking about that later on, and kind of puts it into perspective. Christian,
I'm sorry,
thoughts?
Nick. I like my heated seats. So.
Yeah, I know. Well, same thing.
That's where we differ.
The nice pickup truck, and who's got the $10,000 vans?
Yeah.
So,
my
go ahead.
last, I guess a lot of people think it's very expensive to run a painting company or a business, and it does. You know, some things that are left up is insurances. You know, what do you do about insurances?
Huge.
But I think some of the intangible things about running a business are very, very simple. And for you guys out there, look up 10 things that require zero talent.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that is all you need to run a successful business.
Yep.
You know, it takes zero talent to be on time.
Yep.
It takes zero talent to have good work ethic.
Yep.
You know, if somebody calls you, call them back.
Yep.
If somebody emails you, email them back. That stuff requires zero talent. And I don't know about you, Nick, but out here, there's very few contractors that, let's just say, do what they're going to say they're going to do.
Yep.
I go to so many estimates where I'm the first one there. I'm the first one to give them an estimate. And I may have been the last one they called.
Yep.
You know,
it's all about mastering the basics, and like, you know, like we said before, it's not a secret. You know, be trustworthy, do what you're going to say, call people back quickly, and along with that, almost every problem in my business I've been able to solve with my effort and not with money. And it's very tempting to say, hey, I'm not making any money in this painting business. I must just need to buy this suite of office products or estimating software, because that's going to be the key. Those things are only as good as you. You know, it's that old computer thing, garbage in, garbage out. And if you're inputting garbage into your estimating software and you don't have enough experience, you're going to get garbage out. So almost every one of these sort of big three problems in a business have been solved with my effort and with no money, just like you said. And that's the easiest stuff. But it's also the most difficult, because it's not something you solve. Like being on time is not a thing you solve. Every day you have to make sure you're keeping up with it. And a lot of people, you know, eventually are not consistent with that, you know?
Yeah, look it up, guys. 10 things that require zero talent. You know, my first van, Nick, was my grandfather. She gave it to me. And I actually, I cut and rolled it.
Yeah, nice.
I painted it myself. I tinted the windows myself because it was a passenger van. And there were bubbles all over it.
Yep.
I mean, it was pretty bad. I change the color yearly probably, and there was no, I think I bought some at Pep Boys, those little stickers you can put to label your own, you know.
Oh yeah.
But here I am, you know, 15 years later, still in business, and you know, I surrounded myself with really, really good people.
Yeah.
You know, I really couldn't run this business without my wife. So, and my main crew leader who's been with me the longest, but really it's these little things that, you know, being coachable, passionate, you know, good attitude, you know, that's the stuff that matters.
It's true. Also, one thing that you would have not gotten me to agree to in year 2 of business that I would absolutely agree to now is setting parameters for family and work time. Originally, I grew up in my family business. It was, you know, 5 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day was the standard. Saturday, you always worked because there was always something to do. And then if something needed to be done, you'd work a half a day Sunday. And it seemed like we always just worked 6.5 days out of the week. And one of the best things my wife did early on was set immediately no weekends. And then I still ended up doing, you know, 4 to 6 hours of estimates and things in the evenings to counter that. Starting this last year or two, I've basically not done any evening stuff. I've shifted all my estimates to the day. And sadly, even at this stage of my business, I thought, well, people have jobs. Who could ever meet me on noon on a Tuesday? Turns out everybody can meet you on noon on a Tuesday. It's not a big deal. So
we'll sit and wait for the cable guy between 8 and 12.
And it's great perspective. And again, because I keep thinking, well, we have jobs. Who can just leave their job? Well, half of the clients I work for have home offices and work away from home, and the other half of the people are just hanging around. And at some, it's so even up until a couple of years ago, I should have done that 8 years ago.
I thought the same thing.
We're living in a different world now, and I know I would find it hard to leave work and meet all these people, but evidently everybody else does it. Just like you said, the cable guy. We can always make time for the cable guy or the plumber or the electrician, so why wouldn't it be the same for a painter? So that's been a huge piece of perspective. 1 out of 40 estimates I do now says I have a job, I can't leave during the day, it has to be evening. And that's fine. It's once every 3 weeks or something I do a 4:30 p.m. estimate, and that's it. So I would definitely say, again, I say this because I would not have agreed to it 8 years ago, but I would say, please, if you're starting off, don't do evenings, don't do weekends. You should be smart enough to be able to get your stuff in to the daylight hours. Now, I still don't work 8 hours a day. I shift my time early morning versus late night, because I got a pile of young kids running around this house, and I can't get anything done in the evenings, and I also want to spend time with them. So I do the bulk of my businessy work before I leave for the field, and then I sort of just run the crews during the day, and at about 4 every day, I'm home and I'm helping with the kids. So
just so people know, Nick, what time in the morning is that?
4.
Yeah.
It's
not late.
No. But if you want quiet, dark, and cool, you're not going to get that between 4 and 8 at my house. I got some screamers running around this house. So yeah, I am so efficient at that time in the morning that and I don't mind doing it. It gives me more time with the family. And if you're going to work 12 hours a day, you might as well, like we talked about the third aid, what do you value? I want to have a progressive business, but I also want to spend time with my family. And to be honest, with that perspective, a lot of people expect somewhere between 4 and 7 hours of time to themselves a day to kind of, be selfish and do what they want. And that has been the sacrifice that I've basically given to work and family. And it's fine. I mean, I still get plenty of time to do what I need to, but I like the mix that I've kind of come up with. So what have you found as a good mix as far as that, Christian?
So for me, I used to do the nights and weekends estimates. But I knew early on that if I was going to be a painter for the rest of my life, I really didn't want to work Saturday.
Getting a phone call there.
Saturday to Sunday. What's that?
I was getting a phone call there. Sorry about that.
It's all right. We never really worked Saturdays and Sundays. We still don't. I'm every day trying to grow my business. I have one of my crew leaders, foreman, whatever you want to call him. I've trained him to do estimates. He's gone on estimates with me. He's a newly married fellow, no kids right now, so he does our nights and weekend estimates.
Nice.
So for those people who don't have the availability, he's there. But I do value my family time too.
Oh, and
I like coaching my kids' sporting events and going to them, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, and you should, just like you give yourself parameters in your business. We have no problem saying, hey, listen, I gotta work 8 to 4 at least, and then I have to do this for my business. You should do the same for your family too. And it's the most difficult thing to do until you actually do it. Then you're like, thank God I set out these parameters for that, at least some guidelines,
Yeah.
Okay, last thing, basically, it all boils down to gain the trust of people, and whatever you're thinking about doing with your business, just do it. In hindsight, all the things that I thought were going to make my business go down in flames were cheap experiments, and the majority of them worked, and I still do them. And the ones that didn't work, I don't even remember what they were, and they didn't cost a lot of money. So I'm gonna scroll. If you got a couple last bits of advice here, I'm gonna scroll through the comments and see. Questions.
Feeding off of that, again, a lot of what I've learned is from everything we learn is from other people for the most part, or mistakes, right? So somebody recently told me, just get it out there and then fix it.
Yep.
Don't sit on stuff, right? Everybody has all these genius ideas at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's who can get it out there first.
Absolutely.
So if you have an idea or you want to do something, go do it and then fix it.
Yep.
Or maybe you decide you don't like to do that and you move on to the next thing.
Perfect example of that. Go back to Ask a Painter #1 and watch that. And that proof positive that get it out there, we'll fix it later. So
yeah.
Okay, I'll scroll through. Danny Airy, thank you for watching, my friend. Sabah, thank you for watching. There's Kathy Covington, my mug lady. Jason Paris. If you guys don't follow Jason Paris, he's got one of the most impressive painting companies. He's a super young dude. His logistical skills are unmatched by anybody I've ever seen. So Jason Paris, Paris Painting, check him out. If you ever need advice too, I don't want to speak for him, but I've got some of the best advice I've ever got from Jason Paris. So Tuane, thank you for watching. Russ Perry, thank you for watching as well. Clayton.
Russ Perry's he's buying a multi-purpose vehicle. His family minivan is going to double as his work vehicle. That's hey,
that's a way to do it, man. That's what I use for, don't think I'm not taking my pickup truck ice fishing this winter. It's not for work only. So, Michael and Chanel Lipka, that fine line. Thank you so much. Jason Paris again. Clayton Wilson. Swanson and Youngdahl is the best company. I understand that they were a very large outfit here. Oh, he wants us to go Union. I'd love to hear about your experience with them. I mean, they are sort of the big dog in my market and probably the multi-state area. Clayton, I'd love to hear your experience there and kind of what you've got from them. So
Anthony Kincaid asked, how many apprentices does it take to build a painting company from the ground up?
0.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. If you're not, and I don't, this is not for everybody again, but if you don't know how to paint and you don't know how to run a business, don't hire anybody. The easiest way to solve all of your problems, all of these sort of big problems of I'm not making money, I'm working too many hours, there's not enough work, all of those problems can be solved by you being the best painter and you understanding how to run a business. All your business is a checkbook. Stuff comes in this way, stuff leaves this way. And the masters of it do a lot of stuff in between to make that efficient. But, master the basics of your business. If you are the best painter that anybody can find and you have a good handle on running your business, magically a lot of these problems disappear and you're left with problems like we have where it's how do we expand? How do we get better? How do we provide the best service? Things like that.
The thing is, too, is to be very – if you can't be honest and you don't have to be super critical of yourself, but be critical of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And if you can't be honest by admitting, saying, man, I really don't call people back, I have a hard time with that, then, yeah, you're right. You shouldn't be hiring people. You should be working on the things that are your shortcomings.
Absolutely.
Just be honest and critical of yourself.
Tom Miller, thank you for watching. Efren's, if you don't follow Efren Medina, he does some of the coolest high-end fine finishing interior stuff you've ever seen. So thank you, Roger Coulter. Love the subway tile. Yeah, this is what I affectionately call the prison shower in my house. It is a completely waterproof room with the shower heads here, and my kids can do whatever they want in here with water, and it's perfectly fine. We line them up, we hose them down with this stuff, and it's the easiest way to clean 4 young crazy children.
It's almost institutional.
Exactly. Well, I was inspired by those prison movies where they delouse the guy. They throw him in that lye thing, and they're spraying him with the fire hose. And I thought, that's efficient. I like that. So, okay. Paul Schmidt, I'll take the 10 guys and $1 million in revenue. Roger Coulter, you're on my business stocking list. Ooh, we're making connections here. Anthony. Oh, there we go. How many apprentices from the ground up? And what's funny is that I'm sorting through this right now because it helps to figure out how big your business gets. You have to have some standards. Some of them can be family time. Like I'm only willing to devote 10 hours a day. And at some point that you're going to limit that unless you have a whole bunch of other management people with you. So right now, my constants are the...
Just so people... Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, I'll make this quick. My standards are number one. I want to ruin the service industry in my area. I want everybody to think back to the plumbers, electricians, home builders, and I want them to be disgusted after working with me and my guys. And the highest quality product I can put out, but I also want to maintain my newfound family time. So now I'm trying to figure out, you know, how far do you stretch that? Can I do that with 20 guys? Can I do that with only 8, you know? So, and you were saying, Christian?
So just people can put it into perspective. How many guys do you have today? And how many guys did you have a year or two ago?
Basically, you know what's funny? If you track it, the first 2 or 3 years of my business, I worked alone. And just like we were talking, you add one and you think, oh, this is going to be horrible. And he's going to be my competition. Turns out he was a great painter and we're still friends to this day. Then you add another and then you get them to find some friends. And pretty soon, you know, I was swelling from 1 or 2 in the winter to 5 or 6 in the summer. And now I would like to maintain 10 year round. I can do 10 in the summer easily. Right now, 7 or 8. So I would, I'm actually hiring again right now, but I would, my goal now, it's easy to meet 10 people in the summer. I would like to keep those 10 all year round now. That's kind of my goal. How about you?
We're at 7 right now. We can be as many as 10, 12, you know, like you said, that many in the summer.
Yep.
Because of where I'm at, and you're in the same position, we're in sales, right? It is extremely stressful. You know, you can't just be the cool painter and they want to come work for you.
Yep.
You have to actually have work.
Yep, that's true.
Know?
It helps.
Yeah, I mean, 10 people, that's 400 hours a week. You know, I might not be that good at math, but that is a lot of hours a week in February to fill.
In February in particular.
You know.
No, it's all interesting. Russ Perry, he says, I live in a similar area, currently looking at virtual office space in our nearest city. That's where the bulk of our business is. You know, one of the things you can do is, you know, I've contemplated this as well, is that if a lot of my apprentices come from an hour away, instead of 10 people driving an hour every day, how about I just drive the hour to a shop space or to something, so we just have a centrally located thing so that they're not doing that. But again, now you're starting to enter into, now that's going to be at least 2 more hours out of my day, and is it more valuable to pay your apprentices a little bit more and compensate them for their drive time, or take 2 hours of your day where you really can't do a lot? If you can get an apprentice to drive you around, you can do your phone calls and your stuff from there, but other than that, you're going to be stuck in a car for 2 hours a day. And that may not be the most productive time of your day. So it's been something I've been kicking around for a while. Rob Lenzen, if work breaks into family time, I put it off until my daughter's sleeping. Yeah, absolutely. That's sort of a must, because especially us who, you know, my wife stays at home with the kids. It's probably more than enough time with the kids. And when I get home, I only get 3 hours with the kids. So it's not a big ask, but I really enjoy it. So. PDCA, awesome guys, thank you. Joe Wondra, a friend here from New Prague, great show today. Chris Shank, nice advice, Christian, sit down, be humble. You should write a song about it. A Gunner, cool is great, especially for new employees. Is there a few good tips on balance being cool and
good question.
the boss with responsibility? A Gunner actually works for this old house. Super impressive company. You can imagine that they probably struggle with the same thing. One of the things that I use to get buy-in for my apprentices is a weekly breakfast. If it's near a job site, I'll take the guys out to breakfast. There's one cafe in town here that we completely restored inside and outside, and we use that as our sort of home base. And once a week, I take the guys out for breakfast, and it's our production meeting. We kind of discuss what's going on in their personal lives, what I hope out of them, what the next bit of training for them is going to be. We discussed jobs recently, and that's where I bring out all my one sheets where I kind of score jobs on a job that came out exactly as it should as a 0, and then it's rated either negative or positive based on the industry average. And it gives them perspective. It lets them know, like I tell them, like, hey guys, you know, you're not seeing a lot of me in the field anymore, but here's the marketing plan I just made. I did all these estimates. I did this really cool color consultation. Here's some new uniforms that we're going to be looking at. And I let them stay connected, because they can drift. Young people can drift from you if they're not connected every day. So being I let my people know that, I want them to trust me. So I constantly want to stay at the vanguard of coatings. I never want any of my guys to know more about paint than me. And it's not that I don't want them to progress, is that I don't have any excuses for myself. I always want to be researching what's new, what's better, what's faster, what's this and that. So Gunnar, that's usually what I do. And I just want to build trust with my guys.
Nick, I'm going to take the other side of that question as far as being a boss with responsibility in the aspect of how to be a nice hard ass, you could say.
Yeah.
What I've found recently, because I do not like firing people.
Oh, yeah.
I do not like destroying people's days. I have a hard time correcting people. Paperwork. Like I said earlier, become unemotional.
Yep.
If you have paperwork that takes it out of you. So let's say it's a 3-piece warning system or a employee handbook to go back to. You're now taking yourself out of it, and you can go back and say, yeah, I'm the cool boss that did this and did that. But hey, man, like we sat down and we went over this, and I warned you about this, and you signed it, and we came up with a game plan to like fix it. This is the second time I'm talking about it. You even just take yourself out of this situation and use a piece of paper. It's very simple, just simple as using a piece of paper, because then it's not you anymore.
I like it. That's a good way to think about it. Let's go, Mr. Yachek. Great topic. Some say keep business and logo simple and clean. I would absolutely agree with that, unless you have a reason not to. Russ Perry, awesome advice on the apprentices, guys. Love it. Thank you. Russ, like you mentioned, he's a minivan for multi-purpose. Definitely, that's a perfect thing. If you're starting off, get a multi-purpose something just so you can do it, and then just don't get overhead. Overhead doesn't add any value to the customer in its simplest way. So, Vonder, thank you for watching. Russ, always write a game plan the night before. Absolutely, I use yellow legal pads to work out my production stuff. I make my little trees of which crews go where with which stuff, and then in that I find efficiencies, and I use that to sort of as my work pad. So, Chad, thank you for watching. Allison, thank you for watching. Darren, perfection is the enemy of good enough. What's up, Christian? Must be a friend of yours, Darren Slaughter. Dean Cudd, hi guys from the UK. Dave, nice to check in this time. Yeah, Dave, thanks for watching. Vonder, a good afternoon to the painters of Brazil. Yeah, you guys are awesome down there. You're very enthusiastic about your trade. We could learn a little bit from that. So, painting snowman could be a big business here. Yeah. Roger. Oh, Roger, you don't have a mug yet, huh? We might be able to solve that. Give me a topic for one of these Ask a Painters, or if you want to join me on one live, we can get you a mug. Aaron, soap on a rope. Decontamination zone. Great advice for our HR director to listen to as well. We'll take some of your ideas to my management company. Brenda, I would love to hear if you implement anything we said today. That'd be very interesting. Does your company have any officers? No, not in the formal C Corp way of it. You're looking at the officer. Juliano, my good friend from down in Brazil, thank you so much. Bom dia to you. Gunnar, thanks so much for answering the question. Awesome. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. And Joe, keep up the good work, Nick. And Christian, this is awesome. I won't keep you any longer than it is. I know I'm long-winded, but this is awesome. We got to do it again.
I enjoy it.
So anytime you got a topic for me, let's do this again. We're at very interesting stages in our businesses, and you and I have a ton that we can learn from each other. And one of the benefits of talking with other painters, which I thought was a cardinal sin before 2 years ago, is there are some dudes who do things so well out there. When I wanted to perfect a certain part of the way I do my business, I actually called Christian, and he basically in 2 emails solved 3 years worth of experimentation for me, and it had to do with chemistry, exterior wood stripping, brightening, refinishing, things like that. And you saved me 3 years of experimentation. So
glad I could help.
It's awesome, man. Have a good weekend. I kept you long enough. And we'll talk soon, man. Take care.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving if I don't hear.
You too, man. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching today. It was an awesome show. Anybody who wants to go live with me, all you have to do is request down here to come live with me. You can either show me your job sites, ask me a specific question, show me something cool you're working on, or like Christian, if you're a business owner, you have something to contribute, let's get on here together, and this is a forum for all the pros. So thank you guys so much. I love doing this. I learn a lot from it, and I learn a lot from other guys like Christian too. So, and homeowners, don't forget about it. Tune in if you got any specific questions for us. This is we are non-judgmental here. There's a lot of avenues on social media, chat rooms, things like that, where if you ask a homeowner question, you'll be ridiculed for it. This is the place for that. We're all here for self-improvement. So everybody, have a great weekend. Veterans Day on Monday, think of vet. They do some cool stuff for us, and have a good weekend.